Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Luke with New Age Thought. How's everybody doing today, guys? Um, Today I'm making a video about a number of things. One, I'm figuring out how OBS works for the first time, and it's really freaking cool. It's super trippy. Um, the other main subject of this video is uh, Russia, Ukraine, and some things that I kind of just wanted to get off my mind. I'm not really trying to come at this with like all right, this is what you need to believe sort of attitude. It's more just, this is something that I guess I want to almost express myself. Like, these are things that I thought to be true for many years, and all of a sudden it feels like I'm getting information which is slightly different to, I guess, what I've traditionally kind of thought global relations and sovereignty and all those things kind of stood for. So, okay, so basically, I just wanted to kind of go over like a history of the Soviet Union and just really take a look at like at the map of Russia, what is now Russia, right? So it's really cool. Russia is one of the largest countries in the world, if not the largest geographically, and it has quite a diverse there's many regions, different cultural diverse cultural regions that were part of the Soviet or the USSR and that are now kind of affiliated with Russia. Um, Start with up here, right? So let's look, right? Like Moscow's right here, man. You got Latvia, Lithuania, Ukraine is right here. Okay, there's Donetsk. And you have, I forget the name of this ocean. I think, what is it? No, is it the Black Sea or I don't know. A lot of caviar comes out of here, but I can look it up. What's the ocean? Black Sea. I was right. What's up, boys? Um, so obviously, like, look, Ukraine is its own country. All right. Now, we gotta be realistic here when we talk about how we get information and how we hear about what other people believe in the world, right? So, as an American or just as a global citizen, I know that there's Ukrainians, the people of Ukraine, a large majority don't want to be part of the Soviet Union. I also know that there's a large population of Ukraine, especially what is now considered the border of Ukraine and Russia, who have no problem joining the Soviet. Joining Russia, and because they were part of the Soviet Union, and I think they just kind of feel like that they have a lot of cultural similarities to Russians. So the situation in Ukraine, I'm I try not to speak definitively on any of these subjects, but I would go as far as to say that I don't think it's black and white to the point of Ukraine 100% wants to be its own sovereign country, Ukraine, or Ukraine wants to kind of, be part of Russia again. Now, here's the thing, right? A lot of Americans, I feel like, we believe that, oh well, Ukraine, like the people of Ukraine want to be free and they want to not have Putin fuck with them, and I understand that. When you see missiles going into apartment buildings, like you realize, like, okay, like regardless of like who's right here, like Putin is definitely, or the Russian. I feel like we just jump to say Putin a lot, like, whereas like in America, if we do operations in like Iraq, like we don't always go like, oh, Bush just shot a missile into the caravan, but for some reason we're very quick to go like, Putin shot this missile. Yeah, I guess he's the one calling it at the end of the day, and no one's really checking him. So anyway, my point being, we like we hear uh, a certain filter that's applied to the Ukrainian-Russian problem, which is obviously, as like, you have to remember where we stand as a Western nation, right? Like, we are America is part of NATO, which you don't see on this map is part of the NATO countries that start here, like France, Germany, and I believe today, like Lithuania, and I believe Estonia too. I'm not sure. I have to check. But there are a lot of countries that on this map are part of that were part of the USSR are now blue, like NATO countries. So NATO, North American, is it trade or treaty organization? I think it's trade organization, but maybe treaty. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Point is, it's a grouping. Just so people who don't know. Let's see what they say. Okay, the North Atlantic Treaty. It's Atlantic. Yeah, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization is called the North Atlantic Alliance. Is an intergovernmental military alliance among 28 European countries and 2 North American countries, established in the aftermath of World War II. The organization implements the North Atlantic Treaty, signed April 4th, 1949. Okay. So, NATO is basically like if, the EU and America combined and had an army, right? And it's really basically what it is because you have Russia, the US, which used to be the USSR, emerged as a superpower after World War II. Notice when the the North Atlantic Treaty was signed, right? That's 1949. That's just a few years after the end of World War II. Russia, as powerful, as traditionally powerful as the economies of Europe used to be, Russia really emerges as a victor from World War II, and they definitely took a hit economically throughout the war, but they were in a good, like a power position, right? So, when you talk about the largest nuclear powers, I mean, they had more nukes than a lot of European countries did. Like Britain and France, I think, and Germany are like kind of the countries that would come in after, and they had much less, and it was really kind of just the U.S. and Russia that were really like the two like alphas in a room. You know what I'm saying? Like if you go into a room and there's a bunch of guys, but you kind of know like there's one dude who is like, yeah, he's the top dog, and then there's like one other guy who like may be able to challenge him, right? That was America and Russia, and we needed a way, like. It's actually, this is very interesting. A lot of people don't know this. General Patton, when it was talking to Eisenhower after he completed his invasion of Sicily into southern Europe, he said, "Look, man, like I want to go after the Russians now." He was in like full, like, dude, he just Giga Chad, just was already in like a war mentality, man. He's just like, fuck it, dude. Like, we fucked up Germany. Now it's time to go after Russia because they're going to be the next threat. And Eisenhower's just like, okay, like maybe like there's a part of me that agrees with you, but you can't just like, we can't, like, they're our ally. Like, we don't want to cause more war. And Patton's just, he didn't want any of it. So what I'm trying to say by telling you that is that, the U.S. needed a way, like right after World War II ended, and even before it ended, look at that fucking Chad, dude. The U.S. shiny ass helmet, dude. The U.S. needed a way to basically check Russia, and America was very strong, but what we basically did was ally with all of the European countries. So that was France. I mean, basically, like the main countries were France, England, America, Italy, and a lot of the countries along the border of Russia today. So if you're Russia, like, obviously we're Americans, or if you are an American, you're gonna be naturally kind of like, you're not gonna see Russia as an adversary necessarily, but you definitely like would support the American way over their way because it's your country. It's just like what you've been born in and into. Like, Russians feel the same way for their own country. So the same reason why we're like, oh, like it's a good thing that we have missile installations all across the border of Russia. Like today, not only have we moved this border back to basically miles of Moscow, like if NATO wanted to engage with Russia, there's not a lot of ground from what is currently a NATO country. Let's look at a map of NATO-Russia border today. NATO-Russia border today. Map. Oh, this is a great map. Fucking damn it. All right. Let's see. Okay. Like, you got to keep in mind, basically, on the previous map that we were looking at, right? This, boom, 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 boom. Belarus, Ukraine. What the fuck? Is all NATO now. So Russia used to have this nice little area, this nice border between, the NATO countries and Moscow, and now they're basically pushed. Look at this distance, man. Like that's basically the distance of Poland from the border of Latvia to Moscow. All I'm saying is that if you're a Russia, like let's say Russia was just the United States in this example, okay? Like if that's your country, you're gonna be like, hey man, like there are not, semi-hostile forces that are like checking us anytime we want to do anything for our own country's sovereignty. And it's kind of like, if you're a military expert or you're a Putin or whoever's in charge of Russia, your military generals and advisors are saying, hey, man, like they have missile installations and troops that can like basically are right on our border. Like we should really develop a plan to increase this buffer region, okay? And for the sake of the sovereignty of Russia, take regions which we feel, it's not like they're conquering Poland or Germany, or Turkey. They're taking countries. I'm not condoning. I'm just saying, like Ukraine was part of the USSR, okay? There is a cultural similarity between Russia and Ukraine. The same way there is between Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Belarus, okay? They differ, but there's definitely much more of a similarity between Ukraine and Russia and Poland and Russia. 100%. Okay? So my point being, we can't be so quick to call Putin like a horrible, like annexing dictator ruler. I'm not saying he isn't. I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying, like, if you think about what America has done, right? I mean, we go. I mean, dude, we've literally had operations in Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan. We've gone into parts of West Africa. We conduct military operations. We started a war in Iraq. And I'm not talking about like drone strikes. Like we sent thousands of troops, tanks, and we were fucking really fighting. Like if you could see, if back just in 2008 and back in like 1999, like Desert Storm, like if they had smartphones back then and you could see the footage that we see today coming out of Ukraine, like that civilian type footage, you would be fucking shocked at what you would see happening by American forces in this region of the world, okay? So don't forget, we've done our fair share of going into other countries that we really shouldn't be messing with and taking their oil or whatever we're going there for, lying to the public about why we're going, because governments do this all the time. You have to give the populace a reason to go into war. You can't say, hey, we're going to sacrifice young men and women, like your sons and daughters, so we can go secure, oil or, look for whatever we're looking for in that region. That's not good enough. People are going to say, no, fuck you. I don't want my son or daughter dying. So they have to come up with a reason. Hey, weapons of mass destruction. This, this is why we're going over there. I'm sure Putin has come up with, a reason besides, we want a buffer zone between us and NATO, right? And I think what he's saying is there are people, I believe what he said is there are people in Ukraine who are asking for Russia to come in and help them, so I don't know. It's very confusing, but the point is, if Mexico, this is very important, if Mexico decided to cozy up with Russia and China and said, hey, I'm going to let you guys come in here and you guys can build missile silos, and you can put tanks and planes, and you can build airstrips and fueling stations and supply stations. Yeah, you can just build them like right on the border of the United States. Like, it's our territory. Like, we don't care, and we love that. What do you think we are going to do as the United States? Do you think we're just going to sit there and say, oh, yeah, that's cool, just, put a whole, ready-to-go military force right on our border? No. We don't, Putin is just doing what we would do or any other country would do, which is if you have the power. Unfortunately, we live in a world that is a lot of times dominated by a person's ability to do something. If they can get away with it, if you have the power and influence to protect, to buffer your sovereignty, then a lot of times you're going to do it. And this, I guarantee you, if they we might even fucking take over Mexico, man. Like, we wouldn't just stop at making a little buffer zone. We would probably just say, if any country even does anything on our border, we are basically declaring war on you. I don't know what our policy is, but I feel like that's how it would be. Whereas Russia, I don't know, man. I can just say I understand, as the United States, we're putting our weapons right on their border, and that probably makes them very uncomfortable. Okay? Now, if we don't want war here, then the same people who are saying, Putin, you need to stop this horrible, violent war, which I agree with, he does need to stop it, then you also have to say, okay, well, then we need to take all the weapons and missiles away from the border of Russia. You can't have it both ways. You can't, support NATO, you see what I'm saying? And be like, yeah, it's cool, Russia. We're going to basically just, have all these weapons and stuff, right, aimed at Moscow, ready to go. But, you can't do anything. You can't start any wars or you got to get rid of your nukes. It's got to be, all together. And the reality of the situation is, there are people in our government who are not going to do that. They know that they have a one-up on Russia through NATO, and that because the United States military has bases all over the world, literally, America, we don't have to conquer countries like Great Britain used to do. We just say, hey, we're going to set up a little military base off your coast. You guys do your thing, and, don't mind us. But really, we have a military base in their country, and essentially, it's like you've conquered a country without even having to run it yourself. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to trade, we still get, we basically tell them how it's going to be, because we're the ones protecting them. Do you see how that works? We protect, when we read the definition of NATO, where is that? I don't know where it went, but, 2 North American countries and 28 European countries. Guess who is supporting all of NATO? Pretty much. It's the United States and, Germany and Great Britain, but really mostly the United States. So we know that we have this great fucking thing that's from our sovereignty is really limiting what Russia can do. After the fall of the USSR, we moved in, we took all of this land that was right on the border of Russia. It would be like if we had a government that collapsed in 1980, and then Russia basically came in and said, all right, we're going to take, here, I'll show you. I think I have a picture open. We're going to come in and just, kind of just nab Texas and the bottom of California, LA, a lot of your economic regions and the ports down here. We're just going to take all that. And, we're going to say, we're going to support people in this region who want a communist government, and kind of looks like a head, like a hair, and 2 ears and a face. But we're going to support this people in this region who want a communist government, and there's people in any region that support any type of government, right? So Russia could come here and find people who would want to live under their, it'd be hard in Texas, obviously, but there are enough people, I believe me, that would be like, okay, if Russia's demonstrating power, and, our government or this government has just collapsed, like that's kind of what happens, right? Like you kind of go, okay, well, we need to have, where is the power right now? Well, the power is in America, which just kind of, through a series of Cold Wars and different strategies have basically collapsed the government of Russia. So it's a much more complex situation than I think a lot of people are attributing to it. And that's all I'm trying to point out here is that, I really have never been aware so much of, like, I don't know, man. I just feel like you can't get you can understand what's happening in the world by watching mainstream news networks, but it's always going to be slanted in a way that makes your opinion help the agenda of the United States government. And that's by design, guys. Okay? It's supposed to be that way. The thing is, I think a lot of Americans, we're starting to realize that now, but I don't think we truly realize that it's literally every news network. Before, I didn't think that. I was like, oh, well, it may be, there's one particular one that's a little bit more, told what to say. And, straight up RT, the Chinese government's news station, they don't, at least they don't, look, I'm not trying to, I'm just saying, like, they're not hiding it. They're just like, yeah, this is a government-owned news network. And people know. And it's almost like, you still don't trust it completely, but you're just like, all right, like at least they're not trying to fucking cover this up. Whereas like in America, it's like we don't even like it's so beyond obvious now, but they will still to their dying breath be like, nope, we are an independent news organization. We have no affiliation with the government, and for you to even say that is atrocious and it's just, are you defaming the name of journalism? And it's just, come on, man. Like, they're not journalists. They're basically CIA operatives, man, that are not trained in combat, but are trained in demographics. They're trained in communication, and they are basically, reporting the real news, but in a way that makes many Americans hold an opinion. I think there are lots of people who are, it's not just Americans, it's a world, obviously, that is seeing this information, right? And I think if you asked a lot of people around the world, what do you think of Putin and this whole thing in Ukraine? They would be like, I can't believe this. Like, look at those violent videos and all this stuff, and it's horrible. And it absolutely is. It is. It's just that it's no different than anything that has been going on in the past and that has been conducted by our own countries. It's only that with the onset of social media and with the onset of more cameras in everybody's hands and decent quality cameras, you're going to see footage that normally would have been, sent to a mainstream media organization or would have been filtered before it got to the eyes of civilians. So it's definitely hitting a little bit harder than I think it normally would. But keep in mind, though, I'm sure that our government is looking for ways to find videos that really make it look brutal. You know what I'm saying? Like the same way Russia would probably, when we were in Iraq and Afghanistan, probably found videos that made, the U.S. not look so good, to use for political pressure. So, and this is just like a geographic and basic history of this stuff. Not to mention, this is another video, but I think if you guys remember, during the election, there was a whole debacle about Biden and his dealings with the Ukraine or his son, and there was a judge who was paid off or forced to resign. And I mean, dude, the United States has basically been making Ukraine its bitch for like the past couple decades. And the reason we're focused on Ukraine, man, is not because we want to, support the people in their fight for independence. A lot of citizens feel that way, but the government doesn't give a fuck. Okay, they're supporting. The only reason they'll support anybody in Ukraine is because there are oil fields in that region, and also it's right in an amazing geographical position. It's right in the middle of Europe. It's right on the border of Russia. It's close to Moscow. It's basically like the gateway from Russia into Europe. And if you control that, that's huge, right? And Russia has, a limited economy, and you're taking away a big, money maker for them. So I truly, if the majority of the Ukrainian people want independence from Russia, then I respect that. But as an American citizen, I only want to support them so far. I think if we can't, we have this tendency to think that anytime there's a fight for freedom or independence, that we as Americans need to jump into it and support them, especially if their values align with ours. Obviously, we've made diplomatic pledges to Ukraine saying that we will defend them if there was a conflict with Russia, but that is something that we probably won't really follow through on. Because we know that would lead to World War III. That's kind of something that you tell somebody to kind of, in negotiations, to kind of say, hey, I know you're basically, sucking my dick and giving me all your resources, but guess what? We're going to defend you when Russia tries to, bully you. And then when the time comes, it's like nobody's defending the Ukraine. So, and we can't, because if we start sending weapons over there, if we do anything besides covert ops and stuff like that, it's and even those are risky. It's going to be it would be like Russia sending troops to Mexico. It's just, we would just take that it would just elevate tensions even more. And so we kind of just have to sit back and go, okay, man, whatever it's destined to be, it's destined to be. And if the people of Ukraine want independence, then so be it. And I will support them in their fight and their battle for independence in ways that do not involve military arms or trying to hop up attention. If the people of Ukraine end up wanting to be more part of Russia, and that's the truth, then so be it, man. I know that sometimes the United States and Russia's interests are not the same, but we don't have the right really to be meddling, I feel like, so close to the border of another major nuclear power. It just doesn't feel right, man. That's somebody else's home. If somebody came to your front porch, or basically they came right up, not on your lawn, but right before your property line starts, right? And they just start fucking doing whatever it is that pisses you off, right? If they're playing noise, they're protesting, whatever, but legally you can't really stop them because they're not on your property. Are you just gonna let that? Are you just gonna go in your house and just be like, well, I don't know? It's no, man. If you live somewhere, even if you don't own the property that's close by, you still take what's called, I guess, a indirect ownership of it, which is, it's still your home street. It's still where you live, and that extends, your direct dominion is in your home and your property, but it does extend a little bit out there. You have more of a say what happens on that street than some random person who lives across the country. And that's essentially what's happening here, right? It's Ukraine's dealing with somebody on their border, and it's some guy from fucking California just flew in and is like, hey, you know what you should do? This should be like this. And, this is how it should happen. Yeah. And you're just like, bro, what get the fuck out of here, bro. What are you doing here? Do you live here, bro? And he's just like, oh, no, man. I live across the country, but I have opinions and stuff on how this should go for my own benefit. And you're just like, oh, okay. Yeah. It's get out, man. Get out of here. So it's a complicated situation, and I just wanted to kind of touch on those topics. I think it's going to be really interesting to follow this into the future, and I do believe that there are people who are trying to. It feels like, we came out of one major crisis, and now, it's like a lot of times a new crisis is developed or starts because of what just happened recently, right? Like Putin. The last thing I'll say before I wrap this up is Putin. This was something on Putin's mind for a while to take the Ukraine, but believe me, these operations, or these, they don't just start randomly. He chose a very particular time to do this, and he chose a particular administration that's in office, whether it's in the United States or a certain prime minister that's in Great Britain. Like, you wait for the setting, for the environment to be rich and good for what you're trying to do. And for whatever reason, I guess Putin felt like there was a weakness, that he could get away with it right now, because believe me, he wouldn't have, if he wanted to do it so badly, he would have just done it during the Trump administration, but he didn't do it. So there was obviously a reason why he didn't do it then. Whether he thought that was because Trump would stop him, or whether he just had something to do with the general administration or world events, I don't know, but he didn't do it. Then COVID happens, Biden gets in, and, it's like, he can't even give a speech, unfortunately, and say, he said Iranian, not Ukrainian, when he was talking about this fight in the State of the Union. So, and not only that, do you guys remember, like somehow Russia is invading Ukraine, and we all are paying more gas prices. Anybody who understands how the oil economy works knows that one country, like just sanctioning Russia, would not affect our gas prices this much, man. Like, we get oil from so many different places in the world. The Middle East, we get it from Canada, we get it from Alaska, we get it from even like some South American countries. So it would go up, but the amount that it's gone up has been inflated. It's not a genuine rise. Like, they've used what can be a true issue to make gas go up a little bit, but they've used that as like a smokescreen, and then like artificially raised it even more. And that makes you ask questions. Well, why would you do that? Why would you want to make more economic hardship for people after they just came out of COVID? And I think that's kind of getting at larger points here, which is like, what are we being led to, right? Like, why is there, why is there economic hardship that appears to be being imposed on the United States and other wealthy countries on purpose? I don't know, man. Like, that's a whole nother video, but I'm just gonna leave it there, and probably gonna just kind of watch how everything unfolds, man. And I just hope that and pray that nobody gets injured, no more deaths occur. I know that probably won't be the case, but I just pray that all lives, Russian, Ukrainian, American, globally, because I see the world as one, can avoid this terrible conflict. So, all right. That is my first OBS video. So let's see how long it was. 33 minutes, not too bad. Okay. All right, I'm out of here. Bye-bye.